Hey, I have a task that I need to complete and I don't feel like doing this manually, so I am going to use Cloud Code inside Visual Studio Code to bulk edit a lot of Microsoft Fabric notebooks for me. Let's dive right in and I'll explain what I'm going to do. So, right now we see Visual Studio Code. I am connected to a Git repository in Azure DevOps. And on the right side, I have included Claude Code and I can chat here with Claude. Let's quickly switch to my Fabric environment right here. And here we see one of the notebooks that I need to change. Now on the left side here in the menu, you see that I have a lot of dimension notebooks and then also a lot of fact notebooks. And I want to have Claude check all of them and then start editing stuff. I need to do this for a customer, but I think it's very helpful if you guys understand how we can do this. So that's why I'm taping it for YouTube. So what you see here is that during development, I've created a parameter. This is a parameter cell that is called current datetime. And I use the current datetime to find out what records are actually valid inside my lakehouse. Now you can see that there is a fixed date and time in here, and this is in practice not a problem because the pipeline that is starting these notebooks is actually overwriting the current date time with the date time from that pipeline run. However, I think it is nice to have this made variable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Cloud to go through all of my notebooks, figure out whether this current date time is in a parameter cell, make sure that the imports cell that I have here, cell number 2, is actually above so that we can use the date time functionality here, and then start injecting the default Python current date time in there. So that when we run the notebook interactively during development, we always have the most recent version. And when the process runs it, it will be injecting the value for current date time that the process is actually running. Now, when doing so, we need to have one thing enabled first, and that is we need source control on this workspace. So when going to workspace settings, and I've already set up source control here, but you can go to Git integration under workspace settings and then figure out that you are actually looking at a Git repository and that this folder right here, this workspace right here, is connected to a Git repository and then a Git folder. Now, what I'm going to do is with this selected, I'm going to check my source control, whether there are any changes. I hope not. I think not. There's no changes in here. That's nice. And then I jump back into Visual Studio Code. Now from here, I'm going to, first of all, make sure that I'm looking at the right branch. And now for the sake of this example, for the sake of simplicity, I've just enabled that I can push to the main branch. This is not something you should do that often. And I'm synchronizing all the changes from the repository into my local environment here in Visual Studio Code. And this makes sure that when I have no changes anymore here in my workspace in Fabric, that means that all the code that is in the workspace is also in Git. I now also have all of that code locally in here. Then I've opened the workspace, and then under workspace content, and that is the content of the workspace that we're demoing today, I have all these notebooks, and then under gold mapping notebooks, we have all the dim effect notebooks that we saw earlier. You can open a notebook like so, and then look at the notebook-content.py, and here you see the Python file representation of the notebook that we have in our environments in Fabric. We can change stuff in here, and when we do so and we publish to Git and then we sync from Git to the workspace again, we've put all the changes into Microsoft Fabric. Now you can imagine that going through 25 or 30 different notebooks to do the same thing is very time consuming and it's not really nice work to do. So we're going to let Claude Code do this for us. I will put in my first prompt in here. All right, so I've created the following prompt. I said in the notebook that is currently open, I opened the first one. You see that there's a parameter cell. We fill one parameter, current datetime, with a hard-coded value. I want you to move the parameter cell down so that the import cell is above. Then I want you to change the default definition of the parameter to Python's current datetime in the same format the current default is set. After you've done this notebook, I want you to go through all the notebooks in the folder workspace content /notebook/1 mapping notebooks /dim and also /fact. The dim and fact notebooks must be edited in the same way. Import cell first so that we have the datetime available, then the parameter cell with the current datetime default definition. Questions? Now we're going to ask Claude it, and Claude is now going to analyze the content of our notebook that we have open. And because we have the content open here in VS Code, Claude Code can actually read that quite easily. Now, mind you, Claude can also understand all the structures that are in our stuff here. But right now, Claude has done a change. It will remove this cell right here. and it will add a new cell like so. So that effectively moves the import cell that we see here to the top, and we will end up with a parameter cell with current datetime equals datetime.now. This is actually cool. Do we want to make this edit? Yes. And now the edit is being made. Apparently now all the edits are going to be made. Do we allow this bash command? Yes, we do. And the good thing here is if we make a mistake or when Claude makes a mistake, we do not need to actually commit the changes to Git, right? We can undo that change and then redo it. So we are actually safe. We can just let Claude do its thing. When we find out that there was an error, then we don't need to actually figure this out. Now this bash command, this seems all right. You should read it, but I've done this before. This should be okay. It's actually figuring out that a few of the notebooks did not fit the expected pattern, and it's now just going through. You can see here now that all the yellow things have been changed. You see that the gray names here have not been changed. Those are the four that have different structures apparently. It is now reading the content for those notebooks, and let me figure out what's actually going on in those notebooks. There's current date time, and the import is different, so that's probably what's going on here. Therefore, it's not doing the pattern recognition in the way that we thought it would happen. But it will probably figure out a way. So we've now opened one of the notebooks that it is suggesting to change, and it is suggesting to put the datetime thing in there and put the current datetime cell right below. Yes, we do want to allow this to happen. And click to expand. This one is going away. That looks good. That looks good. Yes. Yes. I will say yes, allow all edits. That's fine. All 26 notebooks are done. The warnings are just fabric specific. This is a summary. It swapped 21 notebooks. 2 notebooks had a blank line variant that it fixed. That's fine. That doesn't really matter functionally speaking. 1 notebook had different imports. It added the datetime imports. That's cool. And 1 notebook had imports in the parameter cell cleaned up and reordered. That's also fine. The one that we had opened, the company's one, is fixed first. This all looks very good. Okay, so now what we can do, we can go here to our changes, and we can now commit those changes to DevOps. Let me put in the commit message, and we will do commit and push. Okay, let's check in our repository what's actually being changed. I go to the main pipeline. Again, usually I do not commit to main directly. This is just for the demo effect. Let's go to history, and we will find that we indeed have a commit that has been done by Visual Studio Code now. So I've just committed this version, and let's look at what changes have been made. This is now changed. It all looks good. That looks good. And let's just do a few checks in here. So datetime and then imports is now imports and then datetime. And the same goes for all of these notebooks, basically. Let's see, do we have any fact tables here? Yes, we do. Same thing. We swapped this out. So this all looks really good now. Okay, now we go to the data platform. We go to source control and we let it check for updates. And there are 26 updates now. 26 of the notebooks have been changed. And from here, we can again look at the difference. So if we don't trust the process, we can let Fabric tell us what changes have been made. Now this is a slow screen. I don't know why. Usually the Git diff is very, very quick. Here in Fabric, it's not so fast. But then again, per notebook that we can click, and in this case, we have opened resources, I think, we can figure out that this piece of code is being gone and this piece of code is now being added so that the parameter cell happens after the import cell here. Well, this looks good. Let's click on update all. And then we will probably cut because it takes a lot of time. Okay, that took a while. I grabbed myself a cup of coffee, but now we don't have any changes left, so all of the changes have been synchronized. Let's open up a few notebooks to verify that indeed the changes that we've done are actually succeeded. So I'm now just clicking a few dimensions here, and let's also go through a few of the facts. Now in here we can see that we do indeed import first and then do this. This all looks good. This all looks good. I'm quite happy with this. This is perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, so we have now done quite an elaborate task that would have been a lot of work manually to open a notebook, click, swap around, copy paste in the new definition, save it down. We've done that 26 times now automatically by letting Claude Code handle this in Microsoft Visual Studio Code. It saves me a lot of time. This is one of the use cases I have for using Claude Code with Microsoft Fabric. There's more use cases, and I will be making more and more videos as I figure out ways to work with Claude Code for Microsoft Fabric. And every week I will be publishing a video on using Microsoft Fabric, whether it's AI or not. Every week on Thursday usually there will be a new video. So if you want to follow along, hit subscribe on my channel. That's how I know that you like the channel and that I can send you new videos. Do not forget to give a thumbs up to this video, and I will see you next week at another video for That Fabric Guy.